Welcome to kindness in real life. What if a chance encounter in the most unexpected place could change everything? A millionaire CEO, drowning in the relentless pace of his high-powered life, who finds true love and a new purpose when he discovers a cleaning lady sound asleep on his bathroom toilet lid. Let's get started. Dylan Scott, a self-made millionaire CEO known for his steely determination and relentless drive, had just wrapped up a grueling day of board meetings and high-stakes negotiations. All he craved now was a few moments of solitude, a chance to wash away the day's stress in the warm embrace of a hot shower on his luxury cruise. As he strode confidently into his opulent suite, every detail of the room spoke of success. Polished marble floors, plush furnishings, and a quiet grandeur that only the best could afford. His plan was simple. Change into something comfortable, relax, and let the soothing ocean breeze carry away the weight of his responsibilities. Dylan's sanctuary was his private bathroom, a space so grand it looked more like a palace than a room meant for routine hygiene. Today, he intended to enjoy nothing but silence and the calming steam of a long-awaited shower. He left his suit and tie neatly arranged in his suite and headed straight for the bathroom, eager to sink into its luxurious serenity. But destiny had a wicked sense of humor. As Dylan pushed open the bathroom door, his mind was already drifting toward the warmth of the shower when a soft, unmistakable sound of snoring reached his ears. Confused, he paused. The sound came from deep within the room. With a frown, he stepped further in, expecting perhaps to see a cleaning crew member tidying up. A mistake he assumed could be quickly corrected. Instead, what greeted him was so absurd that for a split second, time seemed to slow down. There, lying on the gleaming toilet lid, as if it were a cushioned recliner, was a woman in a hotel uniform, Lily Collins. Her head was tilted back in peaceful slumber, her dark hair fanned out messily, and a small pile of neatly folded towels lay beside her. Dylan's jaw dropped. "What the?" he muttered, his voice echoing off the marble walls. His heart pounded as if he were under attack. The sight was too surreal. A cleaning lady, exhausted and vulnerable, had somehow fallen asleep right in his bathroom. His mind raced. This was his private oasis, and now it had become a stage for an utterly unexpected and intimate mishap. At that very moment, Lily stirred. Her eyes fluttered open, and she sat up abruptly, as if jolted awake by a sudden nightmare. "Oh my God," she began, her voice trembling as she hastily tried to cover herself with a nearby towel. Her cheeks flushed a deep red, and she fumbled for words. "I'm so sorry, sir. I didn't mean to be here like this." Dylan, still in shock, quickly regained his composure. It's okay," he said, his tone surprisingly gentle despite the chaos of the situation. I didn't expect to find anyone here." His eyes softened as he took in the vulnerable expression on Lily's face, a face that, even in disarray, held an undeniable beauty and a certain dignity. For a long, awkward moment, silence enveloped the room. Finally, Dylan cleared his throat. "Are you all right?" he asked softly. Lily hesitated, then replied in a low voice, I'm fine. I've been working nonstop. I was cleaning this suite and I guess exhaustion took over." Her eyes, wide with mortification and exhaustion, searched his face for any sign of anger. Instead, she found only genuine concern. Dylan couldn't help but let out a small, incredulous laugh. "You fell asleep on the toilet lid?" he repeated, the absurdity of the situation mingling with a spark of amusement. "I suppose that's one way to get some extra rest." Lily managed a weak smile, though her embarrassment was palpable. "I know it sounds ridiculous," she murmured, "but it's been a rough week. I've been pulling double shifts, cleaning hotel rooms by day, and covering for friend night. I just lost track of everything." Dylan's initial shock began to melt into something unexpected. "Lily," he said, his tone softening further, "you're not like everyone I've met. I mean, you're here, working so hard, and yet—" He paused, his eyes searching hers with a newfound curiosity. "I can't help but be impressed by your dedication." Lily's eyes widened slightly as she processed his words. "Thank you, sir." I, I don't usually get compliments like that, she replied, her voice carrying a mixture of disbelief and relief. Their conversation, though born out of an utterly absurd moment, quickly shifted from awkward apologies to hesitant dialogue. Dylan, the image of boardroom efficiency just moments ago, now found himself disarmed by Lily's raw honesty. I'm Dylan Scott. He introduced himself with a small, genuine smile as he extended his hand. And I hope you're not too embarrassed by this unconventional situation. Lily, still clutching her towel, hesitated before accepting his handshake. I'm Lily Collins, she said softly. I'm really sorry you had to see me like this. I promise, I don't usually sleep on toilet lids. Dylan chuckled, shaking his head in disbelief. Believe me, Lily, I never imagined a moment like this would be the highlight of my day. But maybe it's a sign. Maybe sometimes life forces us to see things from a different perspective. His voice held an earnest vulnerability that caught her off guard. Lily's expression softened as she regarded him. What do you mean? She asked, curiosity edging her tone. Dylan took a moment to consider his words, his gaze drifting to the gleaming mirrors and the luxurious details around them. I spend so much of my life chasing success, meetings, deals, numbers, and I rarely take time to simply be present. But now, here you are, in most unexpected of places, and somehow I'm drawn to you. Not just because of how absurd this is, but because you remind me that there's more to life than just business. Lily blinked, her mind racing. I'm just doing my job, she said, though her voice wavered with something deeper than mere fatigue. I never dreamed a CEO would talk to me like this. Dylan's smile was gentle, yet laced with something he couldn't quite define. I'm not your typical CEO, Lily. Sometimes life throws us a curveball, an unexpected, embarrassing moment that makes us rethink everything we thought we knew about ourselves. He paused, the air thick with unspoken possibilities. Maybe this isn't just an accident. Maybe it's a chance for both of us to change our perspectives. As the absurdity of their first encounter began to settle, the sounds of the cruise ship's opulent world drifted in from outside. Conversations, distant laughter, the murmur of the ocean. For a brief second, amidst the clinking of fine porcelain and the hush of luxury, Dylan and Lily shared a moment of silent understanding. A recognition that life's most extraordinary chapters sometimes begin in the most unlikely of places. Before we continue, I want to say, Dylan began, then paused as if weighing his words carefully. I know this isn't how either of us plan to meet, but if you're willing, I'd really like to get to know you better beyond this mishap. Lily's eyes searched his face, and in them she saw not just the image of a powerful CEO, but a man who was unexpectedly sincere. I like that too, she admitted quietly. It seems life has a strange way of teaching us lessons. Just then, a soft knock at the bathroom door startled them both. The moment was broken by the realization that the rest of the world was still out there, oblivious to the intimate collision that had just taken place. Dylan stepped back, giving Lily the space to gather herself. I'll leave you to get ready, he said with a small nod, his voice gentle. Thank you for sharing this moment with me, however unexpected it may have been. Lily managed a shaky laugh. Thank you, Dylan. I hope your day goes better from here. With that, she gathered her composure and hurried out of the bathroom, leaving Dylan alone with a mind whirling with new, unexplained emotions. As Dylan closed the bathroom door behind him, he leaned against it for a moment, exhaling slowly. In that brief, surreal encounter, something in him had shifted, an awareness that perhaps his life, so rigidly defined by numbers and corporate conquests, had room for something real, something vulnerable. And for Lily, who had spent endless days buried in work and exhaustion, the world had suddenly offered a glimpse of recognition, a hint that she was more than just a cleaning lady in a luxury hotel. On that unforgettable morning aboard the cruise, as the ship sailed toward distant horizons, both Dylan and Lily were left to ponder the strange twist of fate that had brought them together. In that unexpected collision of worlds, the seeds of transformation were sown, a promise that even the most unlikely moments could lead to a journey of change, love, and genuine connection. The absurdity of that morning still echoed in Dylan's mind as he returned to his suite. The image of Lily Collins, vulnerable, disheveled, and unexpectedly captivating, was burned into his memory. He slumped onto his sofa, the cool leather doing little to calm the storm of thoughts swirling in his head. Every tick of the clock seemed to remind him that the encounter had changed something fundamental inside him. Unable to shake the overwhelming pull, Dylan found himself pacing his suite, rehearsing questions he never imagined he'd ask. What does she feel? What does she want? His mind raced with doubts, and with every step, the sterile luxury of his world began to feel more like a gilded cage. Later that morning, as the cruise ship's corridors began to fill with the soft hum of daily activity, Dylan resolved that he couldn't let the moment slip away into oblivion. He needed to see her again, if only to understand the curious mixture of tenderness and vulnerability that had so suddenly taken root in him. Without a clear plan, he dialed the housekeeping desk, his fingers trembling ever so slightly. "Good morning, housekeeping," came a brisk voice over the intercom. "This is Dylan Scott. I was wondering if you could tell me, is there a way I might speak with Lily Collins?" he asked, forcing a calm into his tone. There was a pause. "One moment, sir," the voice replied. After a brief delay, a softer tone responded, "I'm afraid Lily is off duty right now, Mr. Scott, but I can leave a message." Dylan hesitated. "Please tell her that I'd like to talk to her as soon as she's available," he said, his voice laced with an intensity that bordered on desperation. The line clicked off, leaving him staring at the intercom in silence. Meanwhile, across the ship on the lower decks, Lily was beginning her day in a blur of duty and exhaustion. The incident in the VIP suite had rattled her more than she cared to admit. Back in the cramped break room of housekeeping, she sat with a cup of lukewarm coffee, trying to steady her racing thoughts. Every time she closed her eyes, she replayed Dylan's surprised, yet strangely gentle expression. It was an encounter she wished she could forget, but something about his voice, the warmth in his apology, kept pulling at her heart. "Lily, you all right?" asked Carla, a fellow housekeeper, as she joined her at the table. Lily forced a smile. "Yeah, just one of those mornings, I guess. Nothing I can't handle." But even as she said it, she wondered if things had already begun to change in ways she couldn't control. Back on the upper decks, Dylan lingered near the pool area, his eyes scanning the crowd for any sign of Lily. The morning was brisk, the sea air a refreshing contrast to the stifling tension in his mind. His gaze rested on groups of laughing passengers, couples enjoying quiet moments, and families in animated conversation. Yet nothing could distract him from the image of Lily's sleepy eyes and flushed cheeks. As fate would have it, later that afternoon during a scheduled coffee break at one of the quieter lounges, Dylan's phone buzzed. It was a message from an unknown number, an alert from the housekeeping manager. The message read simply, "Lily will be finishing her shift in 30 minutes. Please check with me at room 217. Dylan's heart leapt. Room 217 was one of the smaller staff quarters tucked away from the public eye. He quickly typed a reply thanking her, and a plan began to form in his mind. Within half an hour, as the buzz of the cruise resumed its gentle rhythm, Dylan made his way discreetly toward room 217. The narrow hallway was nearly empty. The only sounds the soft hum of air conditioning and distant conversations from nearby cabins. His pulse throbbed as he knocked lightly on the door marked "Housekeeping, Staff Only." "Come in," a timid voice called from inside. Dylan pushed the door open to find Lily standing by a small counter, cleaning supplies scattered around her. The room was modest, its plain walls a stark contrast to the opulence he was used to. Lily's eyes widened when she saw him. Surprise mingled with apprehension. "Mr. Scott," she began, her tone respectful yet cautious. "Is everything all right?" He offered a small, nervous smile. "Lily, I wanted to talk to you if that's okay." There was a pause as she studied his face, as if searching for any sign of the arrogant so he'd always been. Instead, she saw something softer now, an earnest vulnerability that made her heart skip. "Of course," she replied softly. "What's on your mind?" Dylan hesitated for a moment, gathering his thoughts. "I can't stop thinking about this morning," he confessed, his voice quiet and sincere. "It was unexpected, and I know it sounds ridiculous, but I feel like I've been missing something important. You, there's something about you that, well, it's changed my perspective on a lot of things." Lily's eyes narrowed slightly, a mixture of disbelief and curiosity in them. "You mean you're not just upset about finding me asleep in your bathroom?" she asked, half laughing and half teary. "No, it's not that," Dylan quickly said, shaking his head. "It's not about being upset. It's about realizing that sometimes the most unguarded moments reveal truths we'd rather ignore. I've spent my life focused on business, success, numbers, everything that has little to do with how a person truly feels. But when I saw you, there was something genuine there. I couldn't walk away." Lily crossed her arms, her expression guarded but not hostile. "I'm just doing my job, Dylan," she said, though her voice wavered with uncertainty. "I never expected any of this." He stepped closer, lowering his voice even further. "I know, and I'm not here to make you uncomfortable. Maybe we could talk? Not as employer and employee, but as two people who, against all odds, have found themselves in an absurd situation together." A silence fell over the room as Lily looked at him, conflicted emotions swirling in her eyes. "This is all so strange," she admitted softly. "One minute I'm exhausted from cleaning rooms, and the next I'm being asked to have a conversation with you in a staff room." Dylan chuckled, a sound that seemed to ease some of the tension. "Strange is exactly what I need right now. I want to understand you better, Lily. I want to know who you are beyond the uniform and the tired shifts. I'm not the same man I used to be, and I'm beginning to wonder if I've been missing out on what really matters." Lily hesitated, her eyes flicking away for a moment before returning to his gaze. "I've always believed that hard work is all there is to life," she said quietly. "I never dreamed that someone like you, someone so powerful, would want to talk about feelings. It's unexpected. Maybe that's the point," Dylan replied earnestly. "I've been chasing success for so long that I've lost sight of what makes life worth living. Seeing you, really seeing you, in your raw, honest state, made me realize that there's beauty in vulnerability. And maybe, just maybe, that's something I've been missing." The room fell silent as the weight of his words settled between them. Lily's heart pounded in her chest, and for the first time, she allowed herself to consider that perhaps she was more than just a cleaning lady. Perhaps she was a person with dreams and talents that could be seen by someone willing to look beyond the surface. After a long moment, Lily let out a slow breath. "I'm not sure where this will lead, Dylan," she said softly, "but I'm willing to talk. I've always done my job without expecting anything in return, but maybe I deserve a chance to be seen for who I am." A tentative smile spread across Dylan's face. "That's all I'm asking," he said. "Let's just start with a conversation and see where it takes us." As they talked, the hours slipped by unnoticed. They discussed everything from their daily routines to their deepest fears and long-held hopes. Dylan listened intently as Lily described the exhaustion of endless shifts, her dreams that had been quietly stifled by circumstance, and her secret wish to be more than what the world expected of her. In turn, Dylan revealed the pressures of running a global empire, the loneliness behind every boardroom victory, and the hidden longing for something real, something that couldn't be measured in dollars or success. Outside room 217, the gentle hum of the cruise ship served as a constant reminder that life was moving forward, regardless of the private moments unfolding within its hidden corridors. For Dylan, that morning encounter was no longer just an embarrassing mishap. It had become a turning point, a spark that ignited questions about love, identity, and the true meaning of connection. For Lily, the unexpected conversation stirred feelings she'd long suppressed, a mix of apprehension and hope that perhaps she wasn't destined to be invisible forever. By the time the housekeeping manager came to collect Lily at the end of her shift, both she and Dylan knew that their worlds had shifted irreversibly. "I'll leave you to your work, Miss Collins," the manager said politely, eyeing the pair with a knowing look. Dylan offered a soft nod as he stepped back into the corridor. leaving Lily to finish her day with a mind buzzing with possibilities. In that quiet hallway, as the ship sailed steadily onward through calm blue waters, Lily watched Dylan disappear around the corner. A myriad of emotions swirled within her. Uncertainty, curiosity, and something tender she couldn't quite name. And for Dylan, the encounter in room 217 marked the beginning of a journey that would challenge everything he had known about love and success. Dylan spent the rest of that day in a haze of conflicting thoughts. The cruise ship's luxurious corridors, once filled with the hum of business as usual, now seemed charged with an unexpected energy, a spark that had ignited in the quiet privacy of room 217. That morning's conversation with Lily replayed in his mind like a cherished, yet forbidden melody. He found himself constantly glancing toward the housekeeping areas, wondering if fate would bring her back into his orbit. Later that afternoon, while the ship's activity areas buzzed with families laughing and couples sharing tender moments under the golden sunset, Dylan retreated to a quiet corner of the upper deck lounge. He sat in a plush armchair, a half-empty glass of iced water sweating in his hand, and pulled out a leather-bound journal. As he began to write, his pen traced out the tumult of emotions, regret, longing, and a newfound hope that something real was emerging from the fragments of his former life. Across the ship, Lily was finishing up her long shift. The weight of exhaustion was visible in her slow, deliberate steps, yet beneath that fatigue lay a quiet determination. The conversation with Dylan had stirred emotions she hadn't felt in years, a mixture of vulnerability and a sense of possibility. In the cramped staff break room, she sat with a cup of lukewarm coffee, replaying every word exchanged in room 217. "Maybe I deserve to be seen for more than just a cleaning lady," she whispered to herself, a tentative smile forming despite the lingering uncertainty. As dusk approached, the ship's corridors began to glow with soft, ambient lighting that transformed the luxurious environment into a warm, inviting space. Dylan's thoughts led him back to Lily, and he resolved he couldn't let this moment pass without another chance to talk, without the formalities and guarded tone of their earlier conversation. Taking a deep breath, he excused himself from his journal and headed toward the staff quarters. He found Lily near a row of potted palms outside the housekeeping area, her uniform still slightly rumpled from the day's work. For a moment, the space between them was filled with the gentle sound of waves crashing against the ship's hull. Dylan cleared his throat softly. "Lily," he began, his voice careful but earnest, "can we talk a bit more? I'd like to know, really know, what you think about, well, about everything that happened today." Lily looked up, surprise mingling with a trace of wariness in her eyes. "You mean, you want to discuss our conversation from earlier?" she asked, folding her arms as if bracing herself against another blow. Her tone was cautious, yet there was a hint of curiosity there too. "Exactly," Dylan replied, stepping closer so that his voice dropped to a more intimate whisper. "I can't stop thinking about what you said, that maybe you're more than what this uniform defines. I've built my life chasing numbers and deals, and I lost sight of what really matters. But you made me see that there's a world beyond boardrooms, a world of authenticity and raw emotion." Lily shifted, her eyes softening. "I always thought my life was simple. Hard work, long shifts, doing what needs to be done. I never expected someone like you to notice that, or even care." There was a tremor in her voice as she continued. "Sometimes, I wonder if I'm invisible to the world beyond these cleaning carts." Dylan's gaze was intense yet gentle. "Lily, you're not invisible. Today, in that unlikely moment in my bathroom, you made me realize something I've been missing for so long: the beauty of genuine connection. I know this sounds out of place coming from me, but I want to learn about you, about your dreams, your struggles. I want to know the real Lily Collins." For a long moment, silence reigned as Lily considered his words. Finally, she exhaled slowly, her voice quieter than before. "I don't have grand dreams like you do, Dylan. Most days I just get through my shift and hope that tomorrow will be kinder. I'm not used to people caring about what I think." Dylan stepped forward, his eyes locked on hers. "That's exactly why I need to know. I've spent so many years isolated by my own ambition that I never stopped to consider the lives of others. But your honesty, your simplicity, it's like a breath of fresh air. I want to help, if you'll let me, to give you the chance to be more than what you've been told you are. A flicker of uncertainty crossed Lily's face. Help you? How? I'm just a cleaning lady, she began, but Dylan interrupted gently. No, Lily, he said firmly. I mean, help you show the world what you're truly capable of. I've been in boardrooms, negotiating deals, and I've seen a lot of things that people pretend not to care about. But when I saw you, I realized that real value isn't measured in dollars. It's measured in the authenticity of a person's soul. I want to give you the platform you deserve. Lily's eyes widened, her guard softening as she searched his face. You really think I have something to offer? She asked, almost incredulously. I do, Dylan replied with quiet conviction. I think you have a unique perspective that could change the way people see things. It's not about your job title. It's about who you are. His words hung in the air, charged with an emotion that neither had anticipated. The conversation carried them well into the evening. They walked along the ship's deck as the sky transformed into a tapestry of twilight hues. Dylan asked about Lily's past, her challenges, and the small joys that kept her going during long, exhausting shifts. Lily, initially hesitant, gradually began to share pieces of herself, stories of late nights when she dreamed of a better life, of quiet moments when a kind word had meant the world. I never thought someone like you would care, she confessed softly at one point, her voice trembling with a mixture of hope and fear. I always assumed I was destined to be overlooked, just another face in the crowd. Dylan stopped walking and turned to face her directly. I'm here to tell you that I see you, Lily. I see the strength in every sacrifice, the beauty in every struggle. And I want to help you find a way to let that shine. His tone was earnest, his eyes sincere. Perhaps we can start by simply spending more time together, sharing coffee, discussing your thoughts about this crazy world. Lily hesitated, then managed a small, tentative smile. I like that, Dylan. I really would. The ship's lights sparkled on the ocean, and for a moment, the noise of the world fell away, leaving only their quiet conversation and the promise of something new. As the evening deepened, they returned to the housekeeping area where Lily had to finish her shift. With a reluctant sigh, she said, I need to go back and get ready for tomorrow. I have work to do, and, well, I'm not sure if I can give you all the time you want. Dylan reached out and gently took her hand, holding it for just a few seconds before letting go. I understand, and I won't force you, but I hope you'll think about what we talked about tonight. Lily nodded, her eyes meeting his with a mix of vulnerability and cautious optimism. I will, Dylan. I really will. When they finally parted ways, the cool night air of the upper deck enveloped them. Dylan watched as Lily walked back toward the staff quarters, her silhouette bathed in the soft glow of distant cabin lights. He knew that this encounter was just the beginning, a small ripple that might one day turn into a tide of change in both their lives. Inside, as Lily sat alone in her modest room, she allowed herself a moment to reflect. The unexpected conversation with Dylan had stirred something deep within her, a realization that perhaps she was more than just a worker on the lower decks. That night, with the gentle hum of the ship as her lullaby, she fell asleep with a renewed sense of possibility. And on the other side of the ship, Dylan closed his journal with a resolute determination. In the quiet solitude of his suite, he vowed that, no matter what obstacles lay ahead, he would not let the chance to truly connect with Lily slip away. His life had been defined by success and power for too long. Now, it was time to redefine success on a more human scale. The morning light broke over the endless ocean as the cruise ship sailed into a new day, yet beneath the calm exterior, turbulence brewed. After that night of deep, revealing conversation on the upper deck, Dylan and Lily both felt the weight of unspoken promises and the looming threat of the outside world. In the days that followed, media whispers began to swirl like dark clouds. Rumors of the bizarre bathroom incident had mutated overnight into scandalous headlines. CEO's secret soft spot, cleaning lady's wake-up call, one tabloid screamed. while another insisted, luxury cruise sparks unexpected romance. Despite the relentless chatter, Dylan remained focused. Every time his phone buzzed with an urgent notification, he'd pause to read, then set it aside. He couldn't afford distractions, not when his newfound feelings for Lily were so raw and real. At breakfast the next morning, Dylan sat at a secluded table in the quiet VIP lounge. He sipped his coffee slowly, replaying the previous night's conversation in his mind. Across the room, Lily worked diligently among the staff in her crisp uniform. But even as she cleaned and organized, her thoughts were on Dylan. She couldn't shake the memory of his earnest eyes or the way he gently encouraged her to see herself as more than a cleaning lady. Every time she caught a glimpse of his silhouette on the upper decks, a mixture of hope and trepidation welled within her. Later that afternoon, fate intervened once more. Dylan had arranged a private meeting with the ship's media liaison, a gesture meant to control the narrative swirling around his unexpected encounter. He hoped that by sharing his genuine feelings in a measured statement, he could quiet the rumors and show that his heart was in the right place. Yet as he walked briskly through the ship's elegant corridors toward the press room, he caught sight of Lily standing alone near a potted palm, her face etched with both determination and concern. "Lily," he called out softly as he approached. "May I join you for a moment?" She turned, her eyes meeting his. "Of course, Dylan," she replied, her voice steady despite the uncertainty flickering behind it. They walked side by side along a quieter deck, where the chatter of passengers was reduced to gentle murmurs and the soft notes of a piano drifted from a distant lounge. Dylan broke the silence. "I know the media has been relentless. I just want you to know, I'm not trying to use any of this for my benefit. I'm here because I care about you and about making things right." Lily sighed, folding her arms as she spoke. "It's hard, Dylan. Every time I see a headline or hear a whisper, I feel exposed like my whole life is on display. I work hard every day just to keep my head above water. And now, I'm being treated like a spectacle." Her tone was a mixture of defiance and vulnerability. Dylan stopped walking and turned to face her directly. "I understand," he said, his voice gentle yet earnest. "I never intended for any of this to become a show. All I wanted was a moment of truth, a chance to see you, really see you beyond the uniform, beyond the exhaustion. I want to help protect you, not exploit you." A long pause stretched between them as the breeze toyed with loose strands of Lily's hair. Finally, she asked, "And what about your world, Dylan? The boardrooms, the deals, are they still everything to you?" Her eyes searched his face, hungry for honesty. He hesitated, the corners of his mouth turning up slightly in a sad smile. "I used to believe that power and success were the only things that mattered, but meeting you has forced me to reconsider. I've seen that there's a depth to life, something real, that I'd been missing. I want to be more than just a CEO. I want to be a man who cares deeply, who isn't afraid to be vulnerable." Their conversation was interrupted by the sudden blare of a phone alert. Dylan glanced at his device, another inquiry from the press. With a frustrated sigh, he tucked it away. "I promise I'll handle the media, Lily. But right now, I need to focus on us, on this, whatever it is between us." Lily's eyes softened. "Dylan, I'm still scared. I've been doing this all on my own for so long. I don't know if I'm ready to let someone in, especially when it feels like every moment might be under a microscope." He reached out and gently placed his hand over hers. "I'm not asking for perfection or immediate trust. I'm asking for a chance to show you that I can change, that I can be the man you deserve. Let's take it one day at a time. I'll prove it to you, I promise." In that quiet moment, with the gentle sway of the ship beneath them, a fragile truce formed, a mutual agreement to try, despite the risks and the eyes of the world that would inevitably watch. Later that evening, Dylan found himself in a hushed press room, facing a modest group of reporters arranged in a semicircle. His statement was measured and raw. "I realize that personal mistakes and unexpected moments can define us in ways we never imagine," he said, his voice steady but laced with vulnerability. "This morning, I experienced something that forced me to see beyond the metrics of business success. I met someone who reminded me that genuine connection is worth far more than any quarterly report. I ask that you respect our privacy as we navigate this journey." The reporter's murmurs fell into a thoughtful silence, and for a moment, Dylan felt as though he had reclaimed a piece of his humanity. Meanwhile, on the lower decks, Lily returned to her routine with a new heaviness in her step. The whispers of gossip had grown louder, and though she tried to ignore them, every sideways glance and hushed comment made her feel like a trophy on display. At the end of her shift, she sat alone in the staff break room, her thoughts swirling. "I never asked for any of this," she muttered to herself. "I just want to be seen as who I am." A coworker, Carla, slid into the seat next to her. "Lily, you're handling it better than anyone I expected," she said gently. "You're not just a cleaning lady, you're a force. Don't let them define you." Lily managed a small, tired smile. "I hope you're right, Carla. I really do." Back on the upper decks, as dusk turned the sky into a tapestry of deep blues and purples, Dylan and Lily's paths crossed again in the quiet solitude of the ship's private lounge. This time, there were no cameras, no media frenzy, just two people trying to make sense of their unexpected connection. Dylan leaned forward, his eyes earnest. "Lily, I know this isn't going to be simple. There's a whole world out there, rumors, expectations, and the relentless weight of my responsibilities. But I want you to know that I'm willing to fight for what we have. I'm willing to step away from everything if it means having a chance at a real, honest life with you." Lily's gaze was steady, though her hands trembled slightly as she held onto her cup of coffee. "I want to believe that, Dylan," she admitted, "but I'm scared. I've built my life around survival, around not expecting anything more than the next shift. How do I trust that this isn't just another fleeting moment?" He smiled, a soft, hopeful smile that reached his eyes. "Let's start by trusting the small moments. The way you care about your work, the passion in your eyes when you talk about the details. I see that, Lily. I see your true self. And I promise, every day, I'll work to earn that trust back. One conversation, one shared cup of coffee at a time." The gentle cadence of their voices merged with the soft ambient music in the lounge, creating a cocoon of calm amidst the lingering storm of uncertainty. Outside, the ocean stretched out like a vast, unpredictable canvas, yet within the confines of that moment, Dylan and Lily found a shared space where vulnerability was not a weakness but a bridge to something more. As the night deepened, they reluctantly parted ways, each carrying the weight of their promises and the hope of something better. Dylan returned to his suite, his mind awash with plans to handle the press and ensure that his focus remained on rebuilding his life. Meanwhile, Lily, still wrapped in the bittersweet afterglow of their conversation, gathered her things and stepped out into the quiet corridors of the ship, wondering what the next day would bring. That night, as Dylan lay in bed, the soft hum of the ship's engines lulling him into a restless sleep, he couldn't help but replay every word, every gesture, every spark of honesty that had passed between them. He knew that the road ahead would be fraught with challenges: media scrutiny, lingering insecurities, and the ever-present gap between his world and hers. But for the first time in years, he felt that genuine connection might just be worth the fight. On the other side of the ship, Lily curled up in her modest cabin, staring at the ceiling as she replayed the conversation over and over in her mind. The weight of her everyday struggles momentarily lifted, replaced by a cautious optimism. "Maybe there's more to me than I've ever dared to believe," she whispered into the darkness. "Maybe I do deserve to be seen." And as the cruise ship sailed steadily through the night, both Dylan and Lily clung to the fragile promise of a new beginning, one built on honest dialogue, mutual respect, and the hope that even in the midst of chaos, the smallest sparks of connection could ignite a lasting flame. The cruise ship's final days had settled into a gentle cadence, yet beneath the outward calm lay a swirl of anticipation and uncertainty. After Dylan's heartfelt press conference and those fraught conversations on the deck, both he and Lily found themselves on the precipice of a new chapter. The media had quieted somewhat, but whispers still trailed every step they took, and the tension of the past few days lingered in every shared glance. One cool morning, as the ship sailed through a misty horizon, Dylan and Lily unexpectedly crossed paths in a quiet corner of the upper deck lounge. The space, softened by warm ambient lighting and the distant sound of waves crashing, became their private haven away from prying eyes. "Good morning, Lily," Dylan began as he approached cautiously, his tone gentle yet laced with determination. "I've been thinking about us, about everything that's happened." Lily looked up from a cup of herbal tea she'd been nursing, her eyes weary yet hopeful. "Morning, Dylan." I've been thinking too," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "It's been so overwhelming, the rumors, the constant pressure to explain who I am." Dylan took a seat beside her, lowering his voice as if to shield their conversation from the world. "I know it isn't fair," he said. "I'm responsible for a lot of pain, and I realize now that my world of deals and boardrooms can't fill the void I left behind. I want to make things right, Lily. Not just with words, but with actions, every single day." Lily's gaze softened, though skepticism still danced in her eyes. "You've made promises before, Dylan," she replied cautiously. "I've heard all the apologies, all the talk about change. How do I know this time will be different?" He reached out, gently taking her hand. "Because I'm not just promising, I'm already making changes. I've started attending counseling sessions, and I'm committed to being present, really present, for you and for everyone I care about." His eyes held a fierce sincerity that made Lily's heart skip a beat. "I'm not the man I used to be, and I'm learning, slowly, that success isn't measured by profit margins. It's measured by the love we share and the lives we touch." A long pause stretched between them as the morning light danced on the deck. Finally, Lily exhaled slowly. "I want to believe you, Dylan," she said softly. "I want to trust that there's something genuine here. But every time I think about the past, how I was overlooked, how I was just a face among many, I get scared. I'm scared of getting hurt again." Dylan squeezed her hand reassuringly. "I understand. I'm scared too. I'm scared of failing you, of failing the boys, of repeating all the mistakes I made by disappearing when you needed me most. But I'm here now, Lily, and I'm not going anywhere." His voice wavered with raw emotion as he added, "I want to earn your trust, one day, one moment at a time." Their conversation was interrupted by the soft chime of the ship's bell, signaling the start of the day's scheduled activities. Passengers began streaming back to their cabins, and the gentle murmur of the ocean filled the brief silence. Dylan rose slowly, his eyes still locked on Lily's. "Let's meet later, maybe over dinner," he suggested, "so we can continue this conversation when things are a little quieter." Lily managed a tentative smile. "I'd like that," she replied, though her voice carried the echo of uncertainty. I need time to process everything." Over the next few hours, as the ship sailed toward its final port, Dylan busied himself with his business obligations, making calls, attending meetings with investors, and overseeing the last-minute details of the cruise. But throughout it all, his mind kept wandering back to Lily. Every pause between conference calls and every moment of solitude was filled with memories of their early conversation, the promise in her eyes, and the quiet determination that made her seem more than just a cleaning lady. Meanwhile, Lily tried to focus on her shift, but the weight of the day's events was impossible to ignore. In the staff break room, she found herself scribbling notes in a worn-out journal, small reflections on her life, her dreams, and the strange encounter that had upended her carefully constructed routine. "Maybe there's more to me than I've ever allowed myself to believe," she wrote, the words a quiet declaration of hope amidst the chaos of her thoughts. That evening, as the ship hosted a farewell banquet for its passengers, Dylan and Lily found themselves unexpectedly seated at a quiet corner table in the elegant dining hall. The setting was opulent, a cascade of crystal chandeliers, polished tables adorned with fine china, and an atmosphere of celebration that masked the undercurrent of bittersweet farewells. But for Dylan, every congratulatory toast and every clink of glass reminded him that he was on the verge of redefining everything he once believed about success and love. As the banquet progressed, conversations buzzed around them. Some whispered about the scandal, others speculated about Dylan's transformation. But in their secluded corner, Only Dylan and Lily mattered. Dylan leaned forward, his voice low and sincere. Lily, I want you to know that I'm committed, not just to making things right publicly, but to building something real with you. I've been given a second chance at life, and I refuse to let it slip away without making amends for my past. Lily's eyes glistened with a mixture of hope and lingering pain. I'm still learning to believe in second chances, Dylan. I've spent years feeling invisible, like I was just another cog in a machine. Your words, they mean more than you might realize. But trust isn't built overnight. It's something we have to nurture every day. Dylan nodded, his gaze unwavering. I'm ready to nurture it, however long it takes. I want to be there for you, to show you that I can change, and that I'm not defined solely by my past mistakes. He paused, swallowing hard before continuing. I know that what we're trying to build is fragile, but sometimes the most beautiful things grow from the tiniest seeds. The banquet hall's music swelled softly, and for a moment, the clamor of the outside world faded into a quiet background hum. Outside, the ship's deck glittered under the night sky, stars reflecting on the water like scattered diamonds. Dylan and Lily sat in that serene space, each lost in thought, yet connected by the shared desire for a future that defied their pasts. After the banquet, as guests began to say their goodbyes and the press buzzed with the night's announcements, Dylan and Lily stepped out onto a quiet balcony overlooking the ocean. The cool night air wrapped around them as they stood side by side, the gentle rhythm of the waves lulling their turbulent hearts. Do you think we can really do this? Lily asked softly, her voice tinged with both hope and trepidation. I mean, start over, build something new, even when everything we know is against us. Dylan looked out at the vast, dark sea for a long moment, then turned back to her. I believe we can, he said firmly. Maybe it won't be easy, and there will be days when the scars of our past threaten to overwhelm us, but I promise, every day, I'll work to show you that you're not alone. We're in this together, and that's a promise I intend to keep. Lily reached out and rested her hand over his, feeling the warmth that belied his corporate exterior. I want to try, she whispered. I want to believe that we can find something genuine in all this mess. In that tender moment, with the ship carrying them toward a new horizon, the foundation of their fragile reconciliation was laid. The world outside might continue to whisper rumors and hurl judgment, but on that quiet balcony, Dylan and Lily discovered a simple truth. That genuine connection, built on honesty, shared vulnerability, and the courage to change, was more powerful than any scandal or success. As the night deepened, they remained there, two souls united against the odds, ready to face the uncertainties of tomorrow together. Their journey had only just begun, but in that moment, hope shimmered as brightly as the stars above. If you enjoyed this chapter, please like, subscribe, and leave a comment letting us know where you're watching from. Stay tuned to Kindness in Real Life for more inspiring stories of unexpected connections and transformative journeys.